I pledge allegiance to
To
the
the
flag
flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Very clear.
Thank you, Vice President McCullough. Welcome, everybody. It's so wonderful to see you here at Walt Disney for such a special evening. Some of us actually are Disney alumni parents, and for us, it's wonderful to be back in this home territory. I know that some of our administrators are Disney alums and have taught here, and we're so excited to get to see you again and to hear all about everything that's going on under our new principal, Dr. Higginson. So welcome to all of our teachers who've joined us, all of our parents who've joined us, and these front two rows are very special visitors. Hi, students. Thank you for spending your Monday night with us too. So we'll call this meeting to order at 7:01 p.m. The first item on the agenda is the adoption of the agenda. Board members, any changes?
Yes, I have one change.
I recognize you for your change.
Thank you, President Riley. I would like to make a motion to add to the agenda. I think my fellow board colleague last meeting brought up a good feedback. She's not here tonight, but Mrs. Roach, she stated that one of the requests, this is in regards to the feedback on item number 6.29 last meeting in regards to the ESP support staff. Mrs. Roach stated one of the requests was an outside consulting firm. These are her words, to evaluate. We've done a lot of pay raises in the last year or two to meet market demands, and I think that's a fair request to make sure that as pay increases as we have dealt with specific needs, whether or not there is fairness and parity, and I think the best person to do that is an outside person, not someone who is within our district. My fellow colleague sitting to my left, Ms. Sullivan, agreed with that statement. So I don't see any issue getting consensus from my fellow board colleagues on this in requesting that the corporation hire a consulting firm to evaluate all classified positions and update all job descriptions. A lot of positions have been moved around and duties have been added, taken away from certain positions and other fellow school districts that we like to compare ourselves to. One of those being Carmel down in the north side of Indianapolis recently did one. Long-winded, but that is my motion. Just echoing what Mrs. Roach stated last meeting.
The request for an outside consultant to investigate the perceived pay disparity has already been made. Right now, we're looking at amending the agenda. Is this an item that you would like to add to the agenda
Yes.
for discussion or for
Action.
for action? Okay.
For job descriptions to be reevaluated
Okay.
by an outside consulting firm. Yes.
In light of the fact that the request has already been made of the administration, I'm not sure about adding it to the agenda, but we'll take a vote. So there's a motion. Is there a second?
I second.
Second? Okay. All those in favor vote aye.
Aye.
So polling 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. And I'll vote nay. It is approved by a vote of 5-1. We will add that as agenda item 6.11. Thank you, Mr. Chaffee. Any other changes? Administration.
No changes.
Okay, wonderful. All those in favor, I'm sorry, is there a motion to approve the proposed agenda as amended?
I so move. I second.
All those in favor vote aye.
Aye.
Any opposed vote nay. Motion carries unanimously. We'll move on to the next item, which is the approval of the minutes. Board members, any additions or changes to the minutes from the November 13, 2023 executive session and regular board meeting?
Yes.
Mr. Chaffee.
Page 1, under the executive session, we need to add also present Tommy Teeter. And page 11, the board reports request section, it just states trustee. That was myself, trustee Chaffee. There's no trustee mentioned. It just says trustee.
Any objections to the proposed changes? Proposed changes are recognized. Board members, any other proposed changes? Is there a motion to approve the minutes with the changes having been suggested?
I so move.
All those in favor vote aye.
Aye.
Any opposed vote nay. That motion also carries unanimously. Okay, thank you very much, board members. Next up is the superintendent's recognitions and announcements. Dr. Thacker.
Thank you, President Riley, Board of Trustees. Welcome, everyone. It's great to see you. We all love to come over to Walt Disney. It's fun to visit here, and I don't think this is dolphin weather, though, is it? But you guys are going to warm our hearts tonight, so it's so much fun to be here. And I'd like to begin by introducing our outstanding student board ambassador from Penn High School, Ashley Mead.
Thank you. Good evening, Dr. Thacker, President Riley, and members of the board. My name is Ashley Mead, and I'm here to share some academic, athletic, and Kingsman Court news from Penn High School tonight. In athletic news, I would like to recognize both our Kingsman and Lady Kingsman varsity basketball teams for winning each of their respective games against Carroll High School this past weekend. The boys varsity team won with a score of 72-66, while the girls varsity basketball team won with a score of 72-68. Great job to both of our teams and good luck this upcoming season. In academic news, I would like to congratulate the Penn Quiz Bowl team for defeating Mishawaka this past week. I would like to recognize their captain, Adam Harris, for his leadership guiding the team to win against the Cavemen with a score of 325 points to 90. In Kingsman Court news, we are proud to announce Penn High School has raised over $4,600 for this year's Turkey Legs competition, thanks to the hard work of our teachers and the many donations they receive from students and staff alike. Their efforts will be donated to the Riley Children's Hospital. Thank you to our Kingsmen for their goodwill and charity this past season. And congratulations to Fine Arts Representative Mr. Nemeth for raising $1,460 of those dollars. Before I end my speech tonight, I would like to take the time to thank my mentors and family here at the PHM district, including the board, administration, teachers, other employees, of course our bus drivers, and my fellow students who have helped support me throughout my role as a student ambassador for the 2022 to 2023 to 2024 school year. As I grew into my role as a student ambassador, all of your guidance and encouragement have done more for my growth, not only as a Penn Kingsman, but as a lifelong student and learner. As I proceed with my final year at Penn High School, I will reflect on the time I spent within the PHM district, from kindergarten to my senior year, as a period filled with countless blessings and opportunities. Again, thank you all.
Thank you very much, Ashley. Among our blessings, we count you. You have been tremendous. Thank you so much for having served as our student ambassador for, I guess, the first third of the year.
Right.
Will you make us just one promise
Yes.
as you leave?
Yes.
Will you come back before the school year is over?
Of course.
Good,
That's
good.
not even a question.
Because we like to keep tabs on our student ambassadors to see where you're going to go, because we know the great things are in your future, and we'd like to celebrate them with you. So everybody, if you would join me, please, in thanking our student ambassador, Ashley Mead. I appreciate it.
And before I leave, I would like to introduce the next upcoming student ambassador, my twin sister, Sarah Mead, to give a short introduction to all of you. Thank you. Good evening, Dr. Thacker, President Riley, and members of the board. It's me again. It's nice to see you all. And I will be working with you all from December to February of this school year. I'm really excited to be back up here and announcing things and telling you about Penn. And thank you for having me. I'm really excited to work with you all.
Thank you for your willingness to serve, Sarah, and it's good to see you again. We'll be seeing you more of you. Look forward to it. Okay. We'll move on to the next item, which is one I think we've all been looking forward to. Dr. Thacker, that's our spotlight on schools.
Thank you, President Riley, Board of Trustees. This is a great spotlight. Tonight, Dr. Higginson, the principal here at Walt Disney Elementary School, is going to be highlighting how they're partnering with Get Your Teach On, also referred to as GYTO. It's an organization that specializes in professional development and encouragement for educators and administrators. GYTO is focusing on student engagement and writing with the Walt Disney students and staff. This opportunity was made possible by a grant awarded by the Indiana Department of Education. And Walt Disney was one of only 12 schools that were awarded this grant for this GYTO. So Dr. Higginson will share more about the professional development sessions offered to teachers and special school events coordinated by GTO. Dr. Higginson.
Hey, good evening, Dr. Thacker, President Riley, members of the board. I am so excited that you're at Walt Disney this evening. Thank you for being here. We are so happy to host and tell you about all of the wonderful things happening at Walt Disney. And tonight I get to share with you all about Get Your Teach On. Okay. Here we go. All right, so as Dr. Thacker said, this year Walt Disney Elementary is one of 12 host sites in the state of Indiana for a collaboration called Get Your Teach On. Get Your Teach On is a professional organization founded by a husband-wife team, Hope and Wade King. Now, Hope and Wade are teachers who previously taught at the Ron Clark Academy in Atlanta, Georgia. And then they formed their own organization, which provides professional development and training for teachers based on high engagement teaching strategies. And they also focus on what they call the human side of teachers. They celebrate teacher success, they recognize greatness, they have very specialized professional development, focusing on collaboration and encouraging innovative teaching practices. They are known all around the country for their excellent work. So this is really exciting for us. They host conferences across the country. Really, in the educational world, they are known as educational superstars. So we're very, very fortunate to have them at Walt Disney this year. Okay, so just how did Walt Disney get selected for this awesome opportunity to work with Hope and Wade King, the founders? So over the summer, several of the Walt Disney teachers attended a Get Your Teach On conference. It was before I had arrived at Walt Disney, and so by email, teachers were reaching out to me asking if I would complete an application for the school to be a collaboration site. So it's really, really important to recognize the Walt Disney staff because they had the desire, the dedication, and the passion to want professional development, to help hone their skills as instructional practitioners. Teachers were the ones that initiated this experience, which is awesome. So based upon the request and them reaching out to me, I completed the application. The rest is history. We were selected. It's important to note there were hundreds and hundreds of applications, and Walt Disney was chosen as a host site. I've been in other schools and other school districts, and I have to say I've never been in a school where teachers have reached out during their summer vacation to say, hey, we want professional development, sign us up. So it's just, again, I cannot say enough about this amazing staff and their dedication and passion. So here are some of the emails. I stuck them in the slideshow to show you that I received over the summer. Hey, we're at this conference, please sign us up. This is awesome. And the rest is history. So when Hope and Wade were here earlier, actually this month, I asked them to just record a quick video because I wanted you to meet them and just hear from them yourselves about our selection. So I am introducing Hope and Wade King.
Hi, we are Hope and Wade King from Get Your Teach On, and we are so excited to be here at Walt Disney Elementary as part of the Get Your Teach On by Indiana collaboration.
Yeah, we have been blown away by Walt Disney, and we are so lucky to be able to serve the teachers and the students here. This past summer, over, actually hundreds and hundreds of schools applied to become collaboration sites with us in the state of Indiana, and we chose Walt Disney because their teachers were just so amped up and so willing to take advice to amp up what they were already doing inside of their school building.
So what we've done is we've looked at their goals for the school year, and we have aligned all of our practices to align with their vision so that we can take the amazing things they have going on to the next level. And we cannot wait to see what they do this year, and we are so excited to continue to celebrate them and the amazing things they have going on here at Walt Disney Elementary.
Okay, So this photo was taken on our front lawn the first day that Hope and Wade came to visit. I have to tell you, this building becomes electric when Hope and Wade walk through the front door. And it actually happens before they come. And remember, I mentioned earlier, they focus on the human side of teaching. So before they come, we start receiving several Amazon boxes in the mail. And like big boxes come. And we're so excited. The boxes come and Franca and I are like, what's in this box? What's in this? We have to open up all of these boxes. So inside of the boxes, we found t-shirts, lanyards, teacher backpacks, teacher supplies, markers, cardstock paper, sheet protectors, get your teach on signage, and more, all gifts for our teachers. Then in addition, upon their arrival, we were sent huge, huge balloons that were placed in front of our school and decorated our hallways. We were served breakfast, we were served lunch, we were served snacks, as well as this yard sign that showed up in front of the school. So that was right in front where the parents are in the car line so they could see the Get Your Teach On, and that was all of us in our Get Your Teach On t-shirts that first visit. It doesn't stop with just the first visit. So every time that they come back, about a week before, more Amazon boxes arrive. Franca and I are super excited. We're like, what are in these boxes? We unload the stuff and we prepare for their visit. So it's pretty amazing that they treat teachers so special because they honor the work that we're doing, and it really does help the human side of teaching. Okay, so what has been our focus? I mentioned earlier that Hope and Wade focus on engagement strategies in the classroom. So our work this year has focused on the following. We are working on engagement strategies called call and response. So in short, what that means is that a teacher has a routine call in the classroom to engage students throughout the lesson, and the students respond. And you'll see that later this evening in our student presentation. The idea is that every student is engaged every time in every lesson, and that's our goal. We also have a major, major focus on writing this year and on the writing process. We know that if we increase our students' writing skills, our students will increase knowledge and abilities in all subjects because writing is a part of all subjects. Hope and Wade have taught us a school-wide writing process framework, which we are currently implementing, which also involves a school-wide writing chant, which you're also going to have the opportunity to hear tonight later in the presentation. This graphic highlights the writing process framework. Hope and Wade will be back in January, and so we are working right now to not only ensure that we have this graphic posted in every classroom, but that our students are implementing the writing process, that they understand all of the parts of the writing process. What's also very beautiful about this model is that it can be implemented with our Penn curriculum. So we're implementing that as well. Okay, and here is just a sneak peek at the chant that you're going to hear. We want every student in the school to know this chant, and it has fun motions. So I'm going to save it for our students. This slide shows Hope providing professional development to our teachers. So when Hope and Wade come, we have special professional development sessions where they just meet with each grade level. And then immediately after she presents her material, then we strategically have her go into the teachers' classrooms, in one teacher's classroom in a grade level and the others observe, so that they can see her actually implementing what she has taught in those professional development sessions. So it's pretty cool to see our own students engaged in that work. It's been very, very effective. And there she is in the classroom, implementing some writing. Rock your school day. This is awesome. So I shared earlier that Hope and Wade are known throughout the country. So one of their engagement strategies has been to create a national Rock Your School Day. And the premise of this special day is to make school different than any other day. So on September the 29th, 2023, Walt Disney Elementary absolutely participated in Rock Your School Day. along with hundreds and hundreds of other schools across the country. So when our students came to school that day, first of all, we encouraged them all to dress as rock stars. We were all dressed as rock stars. We did not tell them, but we welcomed them as they walked through the front doors. We had music, we had DJ, we had lights, we had a dance party. Our kids were so excited when they walked in that day. They had no idea that we were going to do that. And then throughout the day, we had several themed educational activities for them to participate in, all around being educational rock star learners. We had so much fun that day. So here is a photo. This is us set up in the front of the school. This is what they walked into as we were playing music, singing and dancing. Here are a few of our rock star students. It was just a lot of fun. Okay, so now it is my pleasure to introduce our Walt Disney Readers Theater Rockstar students under the direction of Mrs. Katie Carroll. They have created a play that highlights the student experience with Get Your Teach On. So many of the things I highlighted, you are now going to hear about.
It was the day when our school transformed into a rock concert. Absolutely. Our teachers went all out, dressing up like rock stars, and Dr. Higginson cranked up the music as we walked in. It was like entering a rock arena. The red carpet treatment was unforgettable. We strutted into our classrooms like rock legends, and those VIP backstage passes made us feel like true celebrities. These passes were like golden tickets to an incredible experience. And let's not forget those U-Rock balloons sent by Get Your Teach On. They added an extra layer of fun to the day. Rock Your School Day, whirling of exciting activities. Listening to the celebrity rock star reader was like being at a live concert. The dance parties were wild. We danced on the classroom stage, feeling like rock stars, grooving to the beat. The pop rocks experiment in science class was explosive. It was like having a mini fireworks show right in our mouths. Learning math problems about rocks was brought a new group to us. Who knew math could be this cool? Speaking of Get Your Teach On, it's been a game changer since we became a collaboration site. Our teachers used those yellow and green cards to gauge our understanding and engagement in every lesson, following Mrs. King's professional development sessions. It's like we're part of an interactive concert. Yeah, whenever our teacher asks us a question, we write our answer on the yellow side if we think we need extra help. And on the green side, it's a great day. It's a question instead of just one of us answering. And having Mr. King, and then Miss King said, "All eyes on me," and looked at her and said, "All eyes on you." Shoot! Give me 2 claps and a woo. Woo! All eyes on me. All eyes on you. Shoot! I even heard that Mr. King got to teach in 2 kindergarten classes. He's like the rock star of teaching. Did you know Rock Your School Day was an idea Get Your Teach On came up with? And this year it had a global impact. Over 100,000 teachers from every continent, minus Antarctica, joined, and increasing engagement while sticking to the standards. One fun idea became a worldwide phenomenon. Here's to Rock Your School Day, Get Your Teach On, and all the teachers who made us feel like true rock stars. And here's to all the students out there who can dream big and make their ideas real, at one school at a time.
The stage is ours. Students, let's keep rocking, learning, and inspiring.
And let's not forget all those other amazing moments we had with them.
Our Rock Your School Day wasn't just a one-time event. It was a reminder that every day can be an adventure.
And all these memories and music and the enthusiasm still make every school day feel like a rock concert.
Rock Your School Day was an idea they came up with, and we ran with it. It showed us the power of creativity and collaboration. It was a day when teachers and students joined forces to create something truly special. It's amazing how one idea, no matter how small, can have such a big impact.
And the Rock Your School Day mascot, Mr. Davidson, rocking it out in the cafeteria as we walked in. He was like our school's personal rock and roll hype machine. It's moments like these that make our school one of a kind, and it's all because we dared to dream big.
So let's promise to keep dreaming, keep rocking, and keep learning. Who knows what other adventures we can create?
Our teachers have a way of making learning an incredible journey. They encourage us to ask questions and explore. And they believe in us just like we believe in them. It's a partnership of learning and growing.
That's the magic of Rock Your School Day and Get Your Teacher. It's about making school an adventure, a place for not just students, but explorers and creators.
It's about having a voice, expressing ourselves, and showing the world what we're capable of. So let's keep making every day a Rock Your School Day. Let's keep the music playing, the creativity flowing, and the excitement growing.
And let's never stop believing that we can make a difference, not just in our school, but in the world. Rock Your School Day sure was great. The guys came back at the beginning of November to help us learn the writing process. They're coming back in January and February too.
I love writing, but I love the chant they taught us even more.
Mr. and Mrs. King worked with us to unlock the secrets of the writing process. It's like they taught us the lyrics to creating our own stories. They guided us through each step, from picking an idea to the golden step of publishing. It's a journey of creativity and self-expression. Should we do the tune right now?
First things first.
First things first.
Pick an idea.
Pick an idea.
Second step.
Second step.
Plan it out.
Plan it out.
Third step.
Third step.
Right.
Right, right, right.
Fourth step.
Fourth step.
You've got to revise.
You got to revise.
What's revise?
What's revise?
Make it better.
Make it better.
Fifth step.
Fifth step.
You've got to edit.
You got to edit.
Edit means.
Edit means.
Fix all the things.
Fix all the things.
Sixth step.
Sixth step.
Golden step.
Golden step.
Send your work.
Send your work
into the world.
into the world.
There's more.
It's like a writing anthem. It makes the writing process feel like a rock concert, with each step building up to the grand finale.
Thanks to Mr. and Mrs. King, we're not just students, we're authors, composers, and creators.
And our writing isn't just for the world, it's a gift to And our writing isn't just for us, it's a gift to the world.
Let's keep rocking the writing process and sharing our stories with the world.
So here's to the power of words, the magic of creativity, and the joy of sharing our unique voices. And let's not forget how Mr. and Mrs. King turned the writing process into a walking adventure. I've learned a lot from them already. And what's cool is that when they leave, our teachers use new techniques they have learned. And I know I became a better reader, a better writer. I wonder what we'll learn during the next visits.
I heard something about creating rubrics for our writing to get even better. Maybe someday I will become an author with a published book.
I'm just so thankful that we have been chosen as a collaboration site this year. It's been so fun, and I've learned a lot. Our teachers are excited too. We've always knew it was a great day to be a dolphin, but I truly feel like we're the lucky ones.
Go Disney Dolphins!
Good job.
They're pretty awesome, huh?
Yes, they are.
Okay, so in closing, I want to once again just thank the Disney teachers for pursuing Get Your Teach On. It would not have happened without them reaching out. Being a part of this collaboration has just been awesome in my first year as principal here at Walt Disney. I really want to thank Dr. Thacker, Dr. Short, Dr. Dean Knoll, Mr. Towner for supporting the initiative, allowing us to move forward with it. They've come out to support us and be here, and we are so appreciative of your support. Thank you so much to the Learning Division. We will keep you posted. Those boxes are going to keep coming. We can't wait. Hope and Wade come back in January. They come back in February, and then in May, there's a big celebration at the state, so we're looking forward to hopefully taking part in that. So yeah, we'll definitely keep you posted. And if you're going by Walt Disney, listen for that chant, because that's our goal for every student to know that writing chant and to be writing. So thank you so much.
Dr. Higginson, thank you. And thank you, students. Before you guys leave, can you just stay for just a second so that we can all express to you how much we really enjoyed your presentation. You did an awesome job. We look forward to seeing you at another school board meeting sometime soon. And thank you, parents, for sharing your kids with us tonight. Let's give them all a round of applause. And while, of course, you're welcome to stay for the rest of the business portion of the school board meeting, we understand if you have to leave. Dr. Higginson, thank you so much for sharing with us. Get Your Teach On. Mrs. Carroll, thank you for all your work. Mr. Davidson, where are you? Thank you, buddy. We appreciate all of your work. To all of our teachers here at Walt Disney Elementary School, we appreciate all the things that you're doing. We also appreciate the parents and the students who came out tonight. What a wonderful presentation. We'll move on to our next item on the agenda, which is the consent agenda. Dr. Thacker.
Thank you, President Riley, Board of Trustees. The administration recommends approval of the 10 items appearing on the consent agenda as presented.
Board members, any questions?
It's actually 11, right? Added 6.1.
Well, we added 6.11 as an action item, but it'll require at least, it's not on the consent agenda.
I would request that we move 6.02 off the consent agenda.
Okay, without objection, 6.02 is moved off the consent agenda. It'll be made 6.12, which is the approval of the monthly transfer. Give me just a second. Okay, board members, do I have a motion to approve consent agenda item 6.01 and then 6.03 through 6.10?
I so move.
I second.
All those in favor vote aye.
Aye.
Any opposed vote nay. Motion carries unanimously. We'll move on to item 6.11, which is a motion relative to the hiring of an outside consultant to investigate wage and benefit fairness. Mr. Chaffee, I wrote this out. I'll read it to you. You let me know if you'd like any changes made. The motion is PHM shall hire a qualified outside consultant to investigate wage and benefit fairness for classified and administrative personnel.
Yes, I would also ask that, and I think I mentioned it in my motion earlier, to assess job descriptions and responsibilities with those individuals too. That's a key thing that I would like to make sure is included.
Okay, so then as revised, it would read, PHM shall hire a qualified outside consultant to investigate wage and benefit fairness and job duty descriptions for classified administrative personnel.
Yes, and evaluate those positions, correct.
Right, okay.
Yes.
Okay, so we'll put investigate and evaluate.
And
Okay, so is there a motion then for PHM to hire a qualified outside consultant to investigate and evaluate wage and benefit fairness, job descriptions for classified and administrative personnel.
I so move.
Yes.
So can we have this move to the next board meeting and have a proposal? I mean, what's the cost of consulting? And can we at least mine the data ourselves to compare to other local and regional school districts to justify that cost spent? That would just be my question of the expense of hiring a third party to do this.
Well, I will know we do have a lot of other third parties up for approval here tonight. And if we were to do that, the motion on school board policy, it's 166.1, we would have had to take a vote on that, to table that to, when we moved it off the consent agenda, if you look at that school board policy, the rest of you would have had, oh wait, no, never mind. This was not a consent agenda item. My apologies.
Yeah.
I was thinking we got a lot of things going on right now.
Yep.
But never mind. If it was a consent agenda item, I'll clarify for the public. If I had moved it off the consent agenda, policy 166.1, they would have all had to vote to table it for a next meeting. But that's where I was thinking through. But I would like the action tonight, and that's at least what we had voted on earlier.
I think I can say something that would assuage your concerns, Mr. McCullough. The motion is simply for the administration to hire an investigator. So once the administration hires the investigator, the contract between the corporation
Good point.
and the investigator has to come up for approval. So if there's a problem with the price point at that juncture, then the school board could weigh in on it. So let's proceed then. We have a motion.
Yes. So moved.
Second.
Second.
Thank you. I'll recognize you, Mr. Garrett, for the second. All those in favor vote aye.
Aye.
Any opposed vote nay. Motion carries unanimously. We'll move on to item 6.12, which now is a discussion item of the approval of the monthly transfer. Mr. Chaffee.
Yes, thank you, President Riley. This is where I got confused, moving this item off the consent agenda. That's where the school board policy is. Just would like to note, since we're making some substantial investments in capital improvements, we voted here over the past several months for a field house, and then later tonight there's discussion on some professional service agreements. And I would just like to highlight, this originally was approved at the January 23rd school board meeting when we had that at LC Rogers. At that point in time, there was a resolution where pretty much we transfer $746,988 on a monthly basis. That totals $8,963,856 out of the education fund and into the operations fund. Reason I'm bringing this up is I just want to ensure the public is properly educated on this transfer. There's a lot of things that happen at these meetings, and sometimes I don't know if everyone understands what's going on financially, but we're taking just under $9 million, taking that out of a fund that is directly allocated to student instruction and learning. For example, teacher pay is a substantial portion of this education fund. So we are taking money out of that fund that goes to teacher pay and transferring it to operations fund, where we are funding things such as the Penn Fieldhouse, such as we're going to discuss later tonight, hiring these outside contractors for capital improvements over the summer of '24, summer of '25, as well as non-direct wages. For example, ESC wages, custodial, maintenance, bus operators, etc. We're taking part of that can be allocated to that. So we have an education fund and an operations fund, and I want to ensure the public understands what we're doing here because we have some substantial projects coming to the forefront. We've already approved an $18 million project. We're We're at the Penn Field House, and there's going to be a couple others coming down the pipeline. So just educational point, because I get a lot of questions on that, understanding the financials from constituents throughout the community, and I wanted to take this time to educate them on that. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chaffee. Other school board members wish to be recognized on this particular agenda item? Okay, thank you, Mr. Chaffee. We'll move on to item number 7, which is the action items. Dr. Thacker.
Don't we need a vote on it? 6.12, we haven't voted to transfer.
I stand corrected. Thank you. Okay, motion to approve the monthly transfer.
I approve.
Second?
So moved.
All those in favor vote aye.
Aye.
Any opposed vote nay. Motion carries unanimously. Okay, now we'll move on to item number 7, which is the action items. Dr. Thacker.
Thank you, President Riley, Board of Trustees. The administration recommends approval of the remaining items appearing on the consent agenda as presented.
Okay. Are you talking about the consent agenda?
We're on
I-
seven.
I think we, just to be clear, I think we already voted on 6.1 and 6.3 through 6.10. We've just now voted to approve the monthly transfer, which is 6.02. Okay, so any remaining items on the consent agenda, is there a motion to approve?
We already voted on those. We voted on those, and then we did 6.11, which was
Yeah, I
the,
think we got it.
and then we did 6.1.
Okay, so let's move on to item number 7, which is the instruction action items.
Thank you, President Riley and Board of Trustees. Tonight, we have a returning item to present to the board for action, and that is the approval of the curriculum and instructional changes for the Penn High School 2024-2025 Program of Studies Guide. The proposed changes were presented for discussion and review at the November 13th meeting by Penn High School Assistant Principal, Mr. Josiah Parker. I would like to ask Dr. Short, or Assistant Superintendent, to present this item.
Good evening. Thank you, Dr. Thacker, President Riley, members of the board. As Dr. Thacker mentioned, this was brought before the board for discussion at the last board meeting, and this evening we are requesting approval for what the recommendations are from the Teaching and Learning Committee from Penn High School that are aligned to school goals, as well as recommended changes from the Department of Education.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Thacker and Dr. Short. Board members, do I have a motion to approve the curriculum and instructional changes for the Penn High School 2024-2025 Program of Studies Guide?
I second.
All those in favor vote aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed vote nay. That motion also carries unanimously. I want to thank you, Dr. Short and Mr. Parker. Your name seems to come up a lot. Thank you for all your work on this. And also Mr. Gallagher. Thank you too. We'll move on to business and operational actions, item number 11, which is the approval of professional services agreement. Dr. Thacker.
Thank you, President Riley and Board of Trustees. Our Chief Operating Officer, Dr. Anlensky, will share a request for approval of some professional service agreements for the 2024 and 2025 capital improvement plans. Dr. Linsky?
Thank you, Dr. Thacker. Good evening, President Riley, members of the board. Hope you had a wonderful Thanksgiving with family and friends. This evening, the administration does request your approval for professional services related to the 24 and 25 capital improvements and facility improvement plan. These plans are only up for informational purposes tonight. I'll be sharing some information. The only thing you'll be voting on is those professional services. In the back, we'll go ahead and get the presentation up. It's obviously a little far away from you guys. So if you'd like to pull it up on your individual screens, it might be easier for you to follow along. Professional services play a pivotal role in our preparation of projects. They also help with the planning, coordination, and they really make sure that the projects go off without a hitch and are completed on time, which is extremely important when we have a very small window to complete many of these large projects. So the first thing you may ask yourself is, what are these professional services? And really it's related to the architects, the engineers, and the project managers that help carry out these projects from the beginning stages all the way through the final sign-off that they are done. And at the bottom, it talks about what the proposals include. Because you kind of say, well, what does that look like? And these are just examples because every group has a different fee structure. And so at the bottom, you can see that the first quarter would be your pre-designed schematic design, as well as your design development. That process, a lot of times, we begin conversations even prior to the professional service agreements to brainstorm the ideas that we have to ensure that we're selecting a professional service that is an expert in that field and can provide us and deliver us a great product. Following that, they create the construction documents, which is the majority of their work. As you can imagine, we have 1.9 million square foot of space. Our buildings are quite are getting older, and a lot of the original drawings are all in pencil and paper. Everything has to be digitized. And so it's a big undertaking. They assist us with the bidding and negotiating, and finally they help us with construction management. And they do that in collaboration with our facilities team. So they're sitting at the table making sure that what they designed is being implemented correctly. And then as the owner, we're sitting at the table making sure it's done to our PHM standards. So these are the recommendations, and I broke these down by year. So you have two different sets. You have a 2024 set and a 2025 set. And you can see in red is the actual proposal price. On the left-hand side is the total budget for the projects that they're going to be working on for us, and that their fee is in the red on the right. So I put those together in a 2-year summary, which is what we're requesting you approve this evening. You can see their proposal price. I also broke down what that percentage looks like as a percentage of the budget, of the scope that they're performing for us. And as you can see, the average is 6.41%. In 2022, which is the most recent data that was available, the average professional services contracts are between 8 and 15%. But that range can vary because we have a difference in the level of the work being performed, the scope, and the complexity of the systems that they may be working with. And so obviously the more complex the system is, the tougher the project, the tighter the timeline, the more challenging it's going to be for them to deliver, and therefore drives up the cost of the project. So that's what we'll be voting on tonight. But obviously, in order to better understand the professional services and what they're going to be providing for PHM and our school community, I'll give you an overview of the 24 and 25 improvement projects. These were provided for you in an executive summary. These, and I'll go through this a little bit later, these will be posted on the PHM website as well as in board docs this week. So the first thing is, how do we create these lists? And really our goal of our team, and then when I say team, we're talking about the learning division, the facilities team, transportation, all of our directors, our principals, our teachers, our employee groups give feedback. And we want to create optimal learning environments. That includes optimal working environments for our employees. So the first thing we want to do is we want to make sure that we maintain high quality of our schools. And so that goes into this process. We want to make sure that we're improving our classroom and our learning spaces, as well as making sure that we're preparing our classrooms to be adaptable as learning is changing with the 21st century instructional methods, and making sure that they're staying updated. You'll look through that list a little bit later and you'll see a lot of technology upgrades in order to meet the demand. So how does PHM assess these needs? We go through a data-driven decision-making process. And at the top of that list is that a facility assessment. 2 years ago, the board approved for us to go back out. We had done a facility assessment with Schmidt Associates in 2015. We conducted another one in 2022 with Fanning Howey. And so we have all of that data to drive our decision making. We obviously meet with all of our stakeholders, and we evaluate data provided by our facilities department, by architectural and engineering reports, and as well as safety reports that are provided to us. Just a couple examples of where some of that data is drawn from and how we prioritize those items that are deemed most necessary. So then determination of priorities, at the very top, you'll see that safety and security is our top priority. So we prioritize that. We're undergoing currently a major rewiring project and a major upgrade for our camera systems and door access controls. Mr. Tommy Teeter is very excited about that. He'll also tell you it's exhausting upgrading those systems all at once, but it's going to be worth it in the end because we'll be setting PHM up for the next 20 to 30 years with the system that we're installing. We look at our learning environment needs and how those change. We look at replacement cycles of equipment. Everything has a timeline. Everything that's running in here currently We're trying to do a better job of, as we install things, things are being put into databases, and we're able to project when those items are likely to fail, so we can be proactive as opposed to reactive, and that helps with the planning purposes. And then obviously we want to make sure that our buildings remain pleasant, and we want to make sure the appearance maintains the standard that our community expects, as well as the functionality of each facility. So our facilities are large. I mentioned 1.9 million square foot of interior space that we take care of on a daily basis. We also have over 500 acres of property when you consider all of the school properties that we own. We have an average year built of 1974, so it's 49 years old. And I make this joke every year. When you get in your 40s, you start feeling like you need some upgrades. And so certainly our buildings feel that. And we try to do a strategic plan to replace those, and we put them so that we don't burden the district with needing to go out for several $100 million worth of projects all at one time, when we know A, we can't afford to do all that once, and B, we can't get the job done. Labor market is very tight. We'll talk about that in a little bit. The average age since a major renovation is 22 years. I put the asterisk there because we no longer really do major renovations to one building. It's tough to take a building down for that long. We need them. We have a very short window, so we do minor renovations all the time. And so that's a little misleading. We do have improvements every single year at most of our facilities. And the district just covers 135 square miles. Mr. Beeler, if you could read line number 3 on the column 4 for me. This is a snapshot, and those in the audience are going to have trouble reading this, but this basically gives you the information on each building. Its age when it was constructed, the square footage it has, the years of renovation, the number of students. It breaks it all down and kind of puts it on one sheet of paper so you can have that snapshot of what PHM looks like on paper. These are the 2 documents that you'll see online. We are recommending 87 projects in 2024. That price tag and investment in our community is $25 million. And in 2025, we have 110 projects, and that investment is $30 million. And we'll talk about some of those projects. Tonight is really just a 30,000-foot view. We'll be bringing the actual projects list to you in January for approval. So how do we label our facility improvements? I try to give, it makes sense in my head, which probably doesn't make sense in your head. So we try to label them in a way that allows you to interpret how we're making our decisions and where we're spending our money. We do it 2 different ways, in a type 1 and a type 2. So type 1, we break it down by safety and security, district initiatives, which is a lot of our facility assessment, that data. We look at principal identified needs, and we have facilities and maintenance. These are interwoven. It's not a perfect world. And so I try to do a second level of service, refurbishment, and safety. So the first one, you'll see that the majority of the items that we're covering or recommending for 2024 are items that were identified on the facility assessment. And again, some of the items in the facilities and maintenance portion, as well as the principal identified need, they may also have been on there, but when they were put on the list, they started as that, and so we just kind of keep them as that. This is that level 2 look and saying, well, what will these improvements do? The majority of them, as you will see, really 70% of them improve the services of our buildings, and that directly impacts all of the users and stakeholders. And so this is a starburst, and I think we discovered this maybe 5 years ago, and this takes basically level 1 and level 2 and puts them together, and you can see how those break down and relate to one another. And again, you won't want to read that on the screen. You'll be able to see it when it's posted online for the community, and certainly the board has access to it now. So this looks at where we're spending the money by location, and I break that down by elementary, by the middle schools, the high school, and then we look at support buildings, which is obviously our smallest portion, and then the district improvements are items that cover one or more buildings. It could cover all of the buildings, such as the rewiring project that was included in a previous improvement plan. And following that, I kind of give you a laydown of what it looks like by the numbers. So we break it down by what the cost is per square foot for the improvements of each building. And this changes in every improvement plan. We just did a major renovation of Meadows Edge with an addition. And so that building will see less improvements for the next few years while we prioritize other buildings who are also in need. I break it down. I think this one is by the student as well. Just gives you an example of what the ADM looks like and what the investment is in that building and how it impacts or how it relates to each student. And then I give a breakdown of the entire plan by school with every single item listed, so you can see what we're planning to do at each of those buildings in 2024 and then again in 2025. And then to further make it easier for you, because the first thing a lot of people say, well, what are the biggest ticket items? And so we put those in order for you by item, so you'll easily be able to tell where we're prioritizing and what the size of those projects are. Some of the project at the very top, Penn High School, is we have a major renovation at the high school with a mechanical renovation. And as Dr. Thacker and I have discussed this often, this is a hidden renovation. We could do it tomorrow and no one would notice anything. But as soon as it fails, everyone will notice. And so it's an extremely important renovation that has to happen. It's a very expensive renovation, repiping the HVAC system in that building. And it's likely going to take, we were hoping to do it in 2 years. It's likely going to take 3 or 4 years, which is a major disruption for our summer activities. So again, this will be posted online, both documents for you. I think it's important to remind you, and we're going to, in another slide, I'll talk about the timeline and some things what it looks like. But our facility and improvement plans are designed strategically in collaboration with Dr. Keeley and our various fiscal partners to make sure that we do not increase our tax rate. We're going to maintain a stable tax rate for our community. We have the lowest school tax rate in the county, and we plan to maintain that. These are not being paid out of the education fund, which is the location of where our teachers are compensated. This does improve our learning environments, which impacts all stakeholders. It improves our working conditions. It improves the service to the community, which of course is our goal. It's directly aligned to our facility assessments. I say assessments because we have both. Now we have over 8 years worth of data, and it takes into account all of the input. We had meetings at every single building as a part of that process, and so we collected a lot of data and input. So the timeline this evening, we're asking for the professional services agreements to be approved, and that's because we have to get started if you want to get projects done this summer. That's the first step, and this is the same process we've always taken. The next step in January, Dr. Keeley will do an outstanding job, and he'll be going through the Board of Finance, and a board member, Chaffee, had indicated making sure the public understands our current, and really it's our past fiscal health, our current fiscal health, and then how we plan to make sure that we have a stable fiscal health moving forward. So that will be a great first meeting in January. At the same time, we will introduce officially these projects for 2024 and 25, and certainly happy to answer questions on those and dive deeper. And then we'll begin the first legal steps that we need to take for financing those in January. And then in February, we've got to get on our horse. We've got a lot of projects to get done this summer, and so we'll start bringing recommendations for awarding different projects and improvements for you. So again, this is the outline of what you're being asked to approve tonight. There are 6 different partners that you have before you. The largest being Fannie Howie and Schmidt Associates. They've been with the district for quite some time. Their work is well known and appreciated. And we're bringing on some new local players, as well as a new player from Fort Wayne that is recommended to us from our partners. So we're trying to get lots of people involved because one group simply can't handle all of the work. So happy to answer any questions you may have.
Any board members wish to be recognized? Yes. Mr. Chaffee?
Just curious, what harm would it cause if we were to table the vote until 2 weeks from now on December 11th? Looking at the timeline on what, slide 25, it talks about November 2023, and then the next thing is until January 2024. Preface this to my fellow board members in regard to a lot of this information wasn't provided to us today. Both of these executive summaries, which are both 20-page documents, as well as this was this morning, and then the presentation was provided to us here this afternoon. So it is a lot of information to review and a substantial investment. I'm not disagreeing with the investment at all. I just don't know if we had the proper time to fully go through and digest this. Because again, this is a substantial investment from our community, as was noted on page slide on 24. This is out of the education fund, it's the operations. So that the majority of that comes from your property taxes. So, is there any harm in tabling that till December 11th? Can we do that?
I recognize the administration to respond to that.
It's certainly up to the board. I guess to answer your question, could we make that work? Yes, but I can tell you that every day that we delay moving these projects, it's more likely that projects will become delayed and not get done.
What are, I mean, I would be curious, other board members, your thoughts on this. I mean, did all of you go through these documents today?
Yeah.
And fully digest the $2.5 million investment that we're going to make in this?
Yes.
I guess my question is that inflation put in those figures? Because it's going to be a volatile market of everything the next 2 years.
I shared with Larry that we recently opened up some bids that were previously approved, and that project came in way over. Inflation is a problem. It's not necessarily just materials, it's labor. And the reason I talk about that 2-week delay and that time, I wouldn't recommend it. Certainly, can we do it? The answer is yes. I mean, it's not mission critical at this point, but with the market, the local market, and the amount of labor that's being pulled from this area to New Carlisle, and because we have a 7-week window basically to perform the majority of these, it's becoming challenging for individual companies to dedicate that manpower for 7 weeks when they're getting contracts for 4 years. And so every day that we don't get that on the street, we get someone locked up as a good partner for us, we're risking, again, just delaying those projects. And again, the projects are important because some of these we're looking at potential failure of a mechanical system that could close. And I'm not certainly don't want to be considered a fear mongering, but like at a Penn High School, the reason we want to prioritize this, and granted it could be a 3 or 4 year project, we can't get it done, is because a major catastrophe with one of these pipes could close the building for more than 2 weeks. So the sooner we get started on it from our perspective, the better.
Okay, thank you.
I guess what about material?
So we're hearing materials. No, I'll share with you that last year we purchased a maintenance van that still has not been delivered to us.
Mhm.
So it's on a boat somewhere, and we're told it's on the East Coast. We should get it this month. Well, we've been told that for the last 4 months. And so even the manufacturer, they can't find it. So, but what I am hearing is from a material standpoint, things are really starting to open up. Chillers that, and again, this may or may not stay the case, but chillers that were taking sometimes upwards of 14 months are now they're staying as early as 8 months. That's a huge improvement. And so we're hopeful, and our partners are hopeful, that materials aren't going to be the biggest challenge. The biggest challenge for us will continue to be labor, which is why I'm a big proponent of the high school and what they're doing and helping our students find careers in all pathways, because we need our partners sit at the table with us and they're saying, how can we get more kids? And so labor is going to be a challenge, not this year.
So these are guaranteed fees, even if the cost goes up. This is all we got to pay.
So it depends on the group. So some of the groups, if the budget exceeds the budgetary number, we would approve as a board when we bring the project back to you, and that project would be higher. Some of their agreements have it written in that they would keep the same percentage, and they would just simply tag that on. And we would certainly bring that back to you for approval.
Mr. Chaffee, anything else?
Yes, that was answered. This is more overall because it got brought up on slide 24 again. And maybe this would be best at the Board of Finance presentation in January. I think it'd be great for our public to be presented exactly what are we going to attribute that transfer from the education fund to the operation fund too. So we transfer it to pay for certain expenses, and it adds to that fund. But I think it'd be great for the public to understand exactly what we are thinking as an administration and board. And maybe this is best from Mr. Keeley at that presentation in January to kind of break that down to the public. Not saying I'm against it. Of course, I voted for it in January of this year. I voted again for the monthly transfer tonight. But I think it would be great to weigh the pros and cons and understand, are we best utilizing every dollar? So I think that would be great.
We'd be happy to present that. I think that's been part of those meetings. And so we'll
It
certainly make
is,
sure
yeah.
we'll make sure it's clear.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, board members, do I have a motion to approve?
Excuse me.
Yes. Yep, Mr. Garrett.
You mentioned in the presentation that we're mostly doing small projects now with the buildings instead of bigger ones to keep up to date. So my question is this, having been a teacher in a corporation for many years, the maintenance that the buildings get on a day-to-day basis is something that's always a concern. So what is your estimation, what is your evaluation of the current status of our day-to-day care and maintenance that we're giving to our buildings? Are we taking care of them the way that we should so we get the most out of them and saves us money in the long run?
Yes. So
happy with that?
I'm very confident in our team. I think we're doing a better job. Joe Winters and Jason Messner have just done a phenomenal job of transforming what that group has done and the accountability that we have to our constituents. But I would also say we're still driving a 49-year-old car. So we're going to have breakdowns, and no matter how many times we look at a tire, we're going to have some blowouts. And so we try to address them as quickly as possible. And we're certainly trying to do a better job than just band-aiding it for any longer than we have to.
That's good. And a couple other points. I was trying to go through this stuff today, and hey, I'm retired. I don't even have a full-time job, and it's hard for me to get through it. But I was concerned as well. I'm looking at these third-party costs. I'm thinking, what the heck? So the reality is, though, it's just basically the way the game goes. And so my question to you is this: the percentage that we pay to these third-party groups, is that something that only Penn does, or does all other school corporations do it too?
No, it wouldn't be even just school corporations. It's any just commercial design management, any architectural fees. So when I pulled up that stat in 2022, that the average is between 8 and 15%. These are between I think the average was 6.41. We've paid as high, depending on the size of the project and the complexity. I can tell you, I brought forward and not been happy about it, a percentage of up to 13%, because that's the group that's able to do it. They've got the expertise, and we need to get it done. And it's a very complex problem to solve. So
that basically answers
I feel very good that I think we're getting a tremendous value for what we're presenting you this evening.
Yeah, it looks like a lot, but apparently it's nothing that we're going to be able to get along without. And that answers my last question. I was going to ask you, is the percentages that we are paying out of line with what other people pay? And it doesn't sound like it is. So it's just something we're going to have to deal with.
And because we're looking at a larger scope, it actually helps drive down those professional services costs. So the smaller scopes cost you more because they need to make enough to make the project worthwhile.
Right.
So that when we're able to have larger projects, and we're also strategically putting these together so that we have economy of scale. So you'll notice if you look at the details, when you look at, say, for instance, an eye for design, and Jackie Hildebrandt's focusing on our roofs, and she is only focusing on our roofs. And so because she has that expertise, because she's only focusing on there, we're getting a great value for what she's providing us. We do the same thing with Schmidt on mechanicals, and then Fannie Howie does a lot of our interior improvements, and they just know our buildings so much better. And because we've already digitized some items with some of these firms, we're also making sure that we're not redoing work that we've already paid for once.
Well, it sounds like you're making it as efficient as possible. Good job.
I just have one curious question. On the one of the projects for this coming summer, I believe, new synthetic turf field for the high school and track replacement. Is this the first one since we originally went to that synthetic?
So that obviously that timeline only starts. The worst thing for turf is actually the sun.
Yep.
Believe it or not. And so the turf is, but it's not so much as what it may start to look like, because it's certainly not looking like it was brand new.
Right.
It's actually getting hard. And so we service that annually. We do GMAX testing, and it's a safety piece. And it gets to a point where you have to replace it because of the hardness of the field, compaction. And you can't uncompact it because the turf is so brittle, it just it'll rip the field apart.
My son can second that comment.
Yeah, and so we're actually gonna, while we're doing it, the track was put in, and they're telling me that the track was the original base from 1974, believe it or not. They redid that in 1996, and we recoded that when we did the turf project. They'll take that back down to asphalt. The asphalt's actually in great shape. Our engineers and architects are they're blown away at how great that field is. But we're going to widen the football field so that we can utilize the stadium for more events, such as maybe a semi-state soccer or those types of things. We've invested so much in making that areas great for student activities, and widening that field is going to allow us to use it for even more.
Have we heard, I'm just curious, because talking NFL, a lot of the fields are turf. A lot of our fields at the high school went turf. Has there been any concerns in regards to safety of our athletes, regardless of sport, in regards to non-contact injuries? I know you hear about that. I'm a huge sports fan, so I hear about that a lot in the news obviously I'm curious at the high school level.
Yeah, that's always a conversation. It's not just about the facilities that they're utilizing, because you're right, there's certainly some drag there, and from the rubber meeting the rubber of the cleat, and so there's friction there that can create some problems. But there's also just concern overuse period. Kids are training more, and they're weight training and year round, which is all great, but it of course increases injuries.
Right.
And so I think that you'll find a hodgepodge of results there. And I think that obviously the stronger and faster the individual, so that higher level NFL guy who's able to break on a dime is more likely to be injured than in youth sports.
Board members, anything else before we take a vote? Hearing nothing else, I'll ask for one vote on half dozen or more different proposed projects. So do I have a motion to approve the professional services agreement with Arcos Design of Mishawaka for a total of $169,800? Approve the professional services agreement with DLZ of South Bend for a total of $293,500. Approve the professional services agreement with I4Design of South Bend for a total of $47,200. Approve the professional services agreement with Fanning Howie of Indianapolis for a total of $955,700. Approve the professional services agreement with Schmidt Associates of Indianapolis for a total of $910,666. And approve the professional services agreement with Garmin Miller of Fort Wayne for a total of $70,000.
I so move.
Second. All those in favor vote aye. Aye. Any opposed vote nay. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Dr. Linsky, so much for your work on this presentation and for answering the board's questions. I couldn't help but to smile when you made the comment that in your 40s you need some upgrades. My only thought for you, sir, is wait till you get to your 50s. We'll move on to item number 12, which is the business and operational services discussion items. Dr. Thacker.
President Riley and Board of Trustees. Mr. Ryan Snoddy, PHM's Neola Associate, met with PHM Board Policy Committee on September 28th to review the current update on our board policies. Board Policy Committee includes Board Attorney Jeff Johnson, Board Policy Liaison Mr. Chris Riley, Mrs. Lucia Ramey, Mrs. Rachel Hugenboom, and me. Following the committee's review, the revisions have been processed in-house to get the policies in the pre-adoption format, which is what is being presented to the board this evening. There are 10 revised policies, 1 bylaw replacement, 4 policy replacements, and 2 new policies scheduled for first reading this evening. The 17 policies and bylaws are the first group to undergo revisions from this most recent update. I'd like to ask Board Attorney Mr. Jeff Johnson to present the 17 policies and bylaws to you. Mr. Johnson.
Thank you, Dr. Thacker, President Riley, and members of the school board. As Dr. Thacker indicated, there are proposed revisions to 17 policies and bylaws consisting of 10 policy revisions, 1 bylaw revision, 4 policy replacements, and 2 new policies scheduled for the first reading this evening. First is bylaw 142.3, vacancies and appointment of board member. The revisions to this bylaw include adding a conviction of a felony as a basis for creating a board vacancy and amending the citations to the Indiana code that were in the current bylaw. Second is policies 3215, 4215, 5512, tobacco use prevention, and policy 7434, use of tobacco on school property. The proposed revisions to these policies incorporate recommendations from the Indiana Department of Health. These include adding a definition of tobacco and adding a reference to the health issues that are posed by the use of tobacco, including the health hazards of secondhand smoke. Next is policy 2510, adoption of curricular materials. The proposed revisions to this policy include the addition of a requirement that curricular materials approved by the board must include a research-based core reading program for students in kindergarten through the 3rd grade. Adding a requirement that the superintendent implement administrative guidelines for selection of curricular materials. Prohibiting purchasing curricular materials from a publisher unless that publisher will provide curricular materials in NIMAS, which is NIMAS format, which is Braille, large type, and audio format. And lastly, adding a requirement that PHM make curricular materials available to all students free of charge. Next is policy 2520, selection of instructional materials and equipment. The proposed revisions to this policy include a requirement that the superintendent establish a procedure for each school to create a catalog of materials available in the school library, which shall then also be posted on the website of each school. Next, prohibiting school library materials that contain obscene material as defined in Indiana Code 3549-2-1, or material that is harmful to minors as set forth in Indiana Code 3549-2-2. And if you want to know more specifically, those are set forth in policy 9130. Policy 3220.01, teacher appreciation grants. The revision to this policy allows the administration to discuss a policy for distribution of teacher appreciation grants with certified employees. This is mainly for the establishment of a supplemental award for teachers serving as mentors to those teachers who have less than 2 years of service. Next is policy 3362.01, threatening and or intimidating behavior towards staff members. This policy was revised in accordance with Indiana law, which requires all threats toward a staff member must be reported to the building principal by the person to whom the threat was made and or by any staff member who has reason to believe that a school employee has been threatened, is the victim of intimidation, is the victim of a battery, or harassment. Next is policy 4120, employment and support staff. The revisions to this policy provide additional methods for persons to qualify as paraprofessionals under Title I supported TAP and SWP, thereby expanding the potential pool of paraprofessional candidates. Next are policies 1425, 3425, and 4425, nursing mothers. These policies will be revised and or adopted in the case of 4425 to comply with providing urgent Maternal Protections for Nursing Mothers Act, and the Pregnant Workers Fairness Act. These policies include the requirement for establishing a private area where an employee can express breast milk. It also outlines accommodations as far as time be allowed for employees to express breast milk. Next is policy 5330, use of medication. The revisions to this policy outline what actions should be taken in the event of an error while administering medications to students. We checked with the nurses and we're glad to learn, and what we suspected, that they are already doing what this policy revision is asking that they do, which is to prepare a report and things of that nature. So although the policy is being revised, the practice that we already undertake is not really going to be changed. Policy 5710, student complaints. The revisions to this policy set forth that student complaints shall be heard by PHM employees or the school board in accordance with policy 9130, public complaints and concerns. Policy 6152, student fees and charges. Revisions to this policy reflect the new law that curricular materials be made available to students free of charge, but that the board may assess and collect a reasonable fee for lost or significantly damaged curricular materials. Next is policy, and last is policy 9130, complaints and concerns. Revisions to this policy relate to a situation where a parent requests that materials be removed from the school library due to alleged obscenity or on the basis that it is harmful to minors. The policy defines when material will be determined to be obscene. It also defines when material will be deemed to be harmful to minors. Policy then goes on to set forth the process and the procedure for the parent to make the request for removal and handling of such request by the school corporation. Lastly, it sets forth that challenged materials may not be removed from a school library unless such removal is approved by the school board.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Before I call on school board members for any questions or comments, it's important to note for school board members just the reminder that Neola presents the policy committee with proposed policy changes that are voluminous, maybe 500 pages or more, and the policy committee goes through all of Neola's proposed policy changes and submits for board consideration only those policy changes that are absolutely required from the last legislative session or by other regulatory means. So the policies that Mr. Johnson read have been sifted through, and the ones that he read are the ones that are absolutely required for us to be in compliance with the law. So with that, any board members, any questions for Mr. Johnson? Okay, well, this item was presented for discussion purposes only tonight. Thank you, Mr. Johnson, for your continued work on the policy committee. We also thank Dr. Thacker and other members of the policy committee. The board will take action on these 17 policies and bylaws at its December the 11th, 2023 board meeting. And we'll move on to the hearing of visitors. So next up is item 15, the hearing of visitors. Before we begin, let me read some generalized instructions, and then I'll call on members of the public to come up and address the board. At regular meetings, the public is invited to address the board on general topics under the hearing of visitors without registering. A time limit of 3 minutes shall be enforced for persons wishing to speak. Board Attorney Jeff Johnson will keep time and will let you know as your time is expiring. It is requested that names and addresses be stated at the beginning of such comments. Individuals may speak only once during the hearing of visitors. Please understand that personnel issues absolutely cannot be addressed during open sessions of the board. PHM is an employer and must comply with their own policies as well as various laws that protect the employment privacy of our employees, among them Title VII of the Civil Rights Act, HIPAA, ARPA, and Indiana's Public Records Access Laws. PHM has a clearly defined procedure for addressing personnel issues, that is, concerns about individual employees of the district should be brought to the superintendent or to his designee, and I encourage anyone who has a personnel concern, to voice that concern to the superintendent. Those concerns are in fact passed along to the school board and are considered by all the school board members. Board does not respond generally to questions or comments posed during the hearing of visitors, and we appreciate, as always, professional decorum. With those instructions in mind, who would like to address the board? Hearing nobody? Okay, we'll move on.
Hi, my name is Christy Witt. I live in Granger. I don't really want to speak tonight, but something came to my attention today regarding Sheriff Redmond. And I know back in January, the new people on the board, I think you had to take an oath. I don't know if it was on a Bible or the Constitution, but the sheriff of this county is supposed to uphold it as well. And on their website, the mission is to provide our community with quality police and public services and impartial enforcement of the law, while treating all people with fairness and respect. Please share what law Ben Dallas has broke. He's a parent. We're still dealing with this nonsense. The vision on the website also says we're supposed to maintain the sheriff is supposed to maintain the highest standards. This is an absolute low. In the St. Joe County, just within the last few weeks, a 12-year-old was murdered, a motel riddled with drug use and crimes at the taxpayer's expense, rapists, drug dealers, illegal possession of handguns, domestic violence, missing kids, drunk driving. Today at Dick's Sporting Goods, multiple people ran into the store and ran out with armloads of clothes. These are real world issues. But you, PHM, once again have possibly stolen taxpayers' resources to do your dirty work. Is Judge Jamie Woods on the case as well? I mean, Tim Corbett is sitting outside our meetings every night when I go back to my car for the last few years. What are we doing? What are you seriously doing? The president is a lawyer, and is this your idea of fear and intimidation? Because it sure feels like it. And as a parent, I could be the next one. I could be the one that's not allowed to come into the building. This is really not the look that PHM is supposed to be going for. This isn't Andy Griffith. You are ruining people's lives because they dare to push back on your excellence. Is anyone on this board ever going to speak up for the tyranny? Because as a parent that comes and speaks monthly, it's just so disgusting that you have a parent that's banned because he's a vet. You have Sheriff Redmond possibly looking at him. I mean, what laws has he broken? What are we doing? As someone of this triangle, I have a senior. I can't even believe this is the world I live in every day. Every other week, there's something else. You guys seriously, you are the ones that are, I don't understand what is happening. You still haven't apologized for what you did, Mr. McCullough, and I come monthly, and again, like all the other parents have said, we're not here for the help in doing this because we have nothing else going on. Other parents want to sit on their butt and they're afraid to come because you have put fear and intimidation into this district. People are afraid their kids won't be able to be the next football quarterback. What are we doing? Seriously, Sheriff Redmond, all these police officers, you are treating us like we're domestic terrorists. And I'm just sick and tired of it. It's so embarrassing. This is supposed to be the best school district in the state. That's all I have.
Thank you, Mrs. Witt. Anybody else?
Laura Zinsky. Let's ask again, has there been any disciplinary actions against Mr. McCullough for reaching out to an apparent's employer? He's a vice president. It wasn't a unanimous vote for him to be vice president of the board. He wasn't elected. You were called a coward by somebody you knew last meeting. You said you weren't allowed to respond because of board policy. But it has been adjusted for, I don't know, like a year at least now, where you're able to speak after the hearing of visitors, and you could have addressed it, and you stayed silent. It was cowardly. You actually acted that out. You hid behind, oh, I'm not allowed to speak, board policy. Ben Dallas deserves to be here. You may not like him. You may not like how he conducts himself. You may not like his YouTube channel. You may not like that he calls you comrades, but he is allowed to do it. And you know what? He has earned the right to do it. You didn't earn that position, Mr. McCullough. You were appointed. And if I recall correctly, you were asked to become on this board. I think you should take your time at the end of this meeting when you have a chance to speak, and you need to apologize not only to Mr. Dallas and his family, to Mr. Dallas's employer, and to all PHM parents. How do I know that you won't go after my employer? You can. You'll get me. I am my own boss for my employer. But how do all the other parents know? What about the teachers? You obviously don't like when we come and we talk about personnel complaints. We're not allowed to do that. But yet our vice president is allowed to contact an employer and talk about how there's a disturbing social media. I mean, what does your family think about that? What did your work think about that, Mr. McCullough? I said last time it was email, but it was a LinkedIn account. I misspoke. It's pretty ugly. Ben Dallas is a private citizen. We may not agree with some of the, teacher social media, and please, all teachers here, please hear me out. It's still a public employee, and they have the duty and the care of minor children. What was the fear here? Mr. Riley, you did not have bullets shot at you. You had a meme with words going past your head. There was no threat to yourself. Very cowardly behavior by all of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Brzezinski. Anybody else? Okay, we'll move on to board reports and requests. Board members, any board member like to be recognized?
Yeah.
Mr. Chaffee.
Take the mic. First, I just want to thank the Walt Disney staff, Dr. Higginson, the police, our safety agents, our technology crew for tonight. Did a phenomenal job across the board. Just again, would like to echo that. It's always awesome taking the show on the road to our schools and seeing the great things that are being done. And then secondly, I would like to address a recent matter that has been in the public eye for the past couple months. This is my own opinion as an individual elected official of this school corporation, one of 7 school board trustees, specifically Ben Dallas. Ben has given me the permission to use his name here tonight, so I will use his name. Everyone is pretty familiar if they've been paying attention the past few months on what's been going on dating back to September. And while to some, Mr. Dallas's choice of what he did might have been a poor choice of what he construed in that video, that is some people's opinions. But I would like to communicate as a school board trustee, at least what's out there publicly in lieu of recent events. So on October 5th, this was originally filed as a police report. Non-criminal was the file class. That police report has been written. I know it's at least on one media site, Real News Michiana. And the status of that incident was closed October 5th at 9:43 a.m. Police report stating that. So at that point in time, I, as a school board trustee, am starting to wonder, okay, are we going to get to a resolution of this matter? It is now November 27th. That is about 2 months ago. That's almost 60 days ago. I'm disappointed in the transparency and the accountability to communicate to the public proper updates, as well as Mr. Dallas. I don't think they have been fair to him, considering he, at the end of the day, is a parent. He served this country to afford us the First Amendment rights of free speech. He also has 4 kids that attend PHM schools. One of those kids plays basketball at Grissom Middle School. I remember 15 years ago playing basketball at Discovery Middle School. It would break my heart if my dad couldn't attend those games. So I wonder what potentially harm we are causing his son by his dad not be able to attend those games. So as a school board trustee, I was elected by the community to serve you, to represent you. So I did my own fact digging. there are some others that have done their own fact digging. What has been communicated to me and other individuals is the prosecutor's office, and I spoke directly with the executive administrative assistant at the St. Joseph County prosecutor's office. I have an email string with her communicating back and forth. They had no information on an investigation. So that makes me wonder, why is this matter not being resolved? Police closed it on October 5th. I'm being communicated this in the most recently as of within the past 2 weeks. So what's happening here? It's a fair question. If I were the public, I would want to know what's happening. If I was Mr. Dallas, I would want to know what's happening. And then we had the article written by Real News Michiana today, Clifton French, where they allude to there's apparently a new police investigation taking place, where they are further looking in to Mr. Dallas. And I would ask why. What changed from October 5th until within the writing of this article? I mean, if I were the public, I would want to know that answer. I think the public deserves that answer, regardless of the viewpoint you might have of Mr. Dallas. We can all agree to disagree on certain points, but it's a fair question that I would want to know if I were you. It's what I want to know. It's what I've been actively been seeking out in my duty in the oath of office I took. As recently as last week, I was told pretty much flat out to shut up and comply, or a felony charge might be in place if the process is not allowed to be played out. Now, that's concerning. I would want to know what the answers are. What happened? Why are we re-looking into this? Why is there an article? Real News Michiana, Clifton French wrote it today, published this morning. A lot of questions. A lot of questions I'd like answered. I think it's a lot of questions I'd like answered, and believe the public deserves these too, not to mention Mr. Dallas. So, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chaff. You relinquished the balance of your time?
Yes.
Okay. Any other board members wish to be recognized? I will very briefly address this issue because some misinformation is being pervaded and perpetuated. I won't speak specifically about this particular individual, but I do want to clear up some misunderstandings. Consequences have occurred because of a specific video, not a meme, that an individual published. The video depicted a semi-automatic handgun turning toward the screen and firing, and right behind the video, right behind the gun, is a screen that says PHM, and it's in all red. It is a very disturbing image. The end of the video, which has been mischaracterized as memes, shows somebody shooting at another person, and my face is superimposed on the person who's being shot at. As a result of the video, a criminal investigation has been opened. We, as board members, do not participate in the criminal investigation. That is up to the sheriff and the prosecutor's office. We have recently received an email from the sheriff with that confirms that a criminal investigation is ongoing. But one thing that we have also previously in the past been cautioned, which should be cleared up so the public is under no misunderstanding. Nobody from the administration has told a board member to shut up or you'll be charged with a felony. The reminder that has been given to board members is simply this. We have been asked and instructed by the prosecutor's office in the past not to take any steps that could be deemed to interfere with an ongoing criminal investigation. All board members have simply been reminded of that request by the administration. So with that in mind, I hope that clears up some of the misinformation that has been purveyed about. Other board members wish to be recognized?
Yeah, I'd like to say something.
Mr. Garrett.
After this, I would like to clear a couple things then too. All right. Obviously, there was something started after the video and so forth, and it was investigated. And our own SRO person did the investigation. There was a police report. The police report was found, did not indicate any criminal activity. And so at that point, everyone assumed, or at least I assumed, it was finished. Okay. So now the big question is, and I don't, I'm not obviously not an attorney, but I'm trying to understand how this would be, involving myself or trying to mess up a police investigation. I don't know why. What else has happened? When the investigation was conducted by Ben, we knew why, because of the video. Now there's a continuing investigation going on. We don't know why. We ask why, no one knows. We're told not to ask because that's becoming a problem with an ongoing investigation. But what investigation? Who's investigating it? Why? Who is the person involved? Who brought these new allegations or charges? Are they over and above what was on the video? That's the problem. We don't have a problem or a question about what happened with the video. We know the video was brought forth, was investigated, no criminal activity. What we don't understand, at least I don't, is what happened afterwards. And I just like to know, what is the big cover-up, or not cover-up, but what is the big vagueness here? Why can't we have transparency? That's a big word. It's an important word. I'd like to know why this gentleman is having additional investigations going on. Did he do something else? Because we were told about the video, but now we're not being told about this. Why not? What's the difference? That would be my 2 cents worth on this issue. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Garrett. Other board members wish to be recognized?
I just want to let the public know, because obviously they were really concerned about my actions with Ben. Ben and I have had a private conversation. We spent over an hour and a half several days ago, and I feel it's taken care of. And please contact Ben if he wants to speak about that face-to-face meeting.
Thank you, Mr. McCullough. Other board members? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on to announcements. Next regular meeting of the Penn-Harris-Madison Board of School Trustees will convene Monday, December the 11th, 2023 at 7 p.m. There being no further business before the board, do I have a motion to adjourn?
I so move.
Second.
All those in favor vote aye.
Aye.
Any opposed vote nay. Motion carries unanimously. We are adjourned at 8:43 p.m. Thank you all so much for taking.